Burniston here with a preview video for some of my new dies coming out as part of the Pop It Ups collection for Elizabeth Craft Designs at the CHA January Winter 2014 show. That's a mouthful. Okay, these are the new pivot cards. There are 3 designs available. There is the butterfly, the heart, and the label. And then I also threw up here on the board this little accessory die that kind of matches the butterfly, so that would be sold separately. It just has smaller butterflies that will coordinate with these. But for the most part with the pivot cards, like all of the new interactive card dies in the Pop It Ups collection, your decorator pieces come on the die, and you'll see when you get one of these dies, like today we'll play with the heart, all you have to do is snip it into its individual dies. And in addition to the pop-up part, the pivot card here, you also get, in the case of the heart, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 additional decorator dies. Okay, what is a pivot card? They are fun. What you do is you take your card, I'll show you how to use them in just a second here, and you line up this die over the fold of any size card. So that's going to be a fun feature of these, is that you get to decide whether you're making a square card, a horizontal card, a tall card, a fat card. It doesn't really matter. It could be a round card. As long as it's big enough to accommodate the pop-up die, you get to choose your card shape. And then once you die cut that into the card, what it's going to do is it's going to create this really fun, interactive opening pivot card, where in this case the butterflies are going to pivot from the front and the back of the card into the middle of the card, suspended there to create this really cool pop-up. They're quick, they're easy. I'm going to show you how to use them. The first time that you purchase a pivot card die, you'll need to snip them apart into their individual dies. Now what I like to use for that is just a little pocket nipper tool. You'll just need something that can get in between the dies to snip all of those tiny little connection threads. So what I like to start with is just removing the little decorator dies out of the middle of each side of the pivot card. So there's those 3 dies are now removed, and then I can go to the other side, and it's just a matter of getting behind there and snipping those little threads. And each side of the heart, I think, has 3 threads. So there you see I've removed the second set of decorator dies, and then the last one to remove is just that little heart out on the end. So after snipping away all the decorator dies, what you're left with is your actual pivot card. So this is the pop-up die. And a little feature that you'll see on all 3 of the pivot cards is these little nubs in the center at the top and the bottom. Those are what help you line it up with the card fold. So don't get confused and think you need to snip those off. They should stay in place. All of the pivot cards come with decorator pieces included with the die set, and in the case of the heart there are 6, so just snip them apart into their individual pieces. Okay, let's make ourselves a quick and easy pivot card pop-up. First thing you're going to need is a card. Now that does not come included with the die set, so you're going to choose any card. You can either cut that with your trimmer or you can use a die, and it doesn't matter the shape, it doesn't matter the size, just fold it first so that you can see that center fold. Okay, any die cutting machine will work that'll accommodate a wafer thin die. You just make the appropriate platform sandwich for whatever your machine is. And the beauty of the pivot cards is that you get to decide where along the fold they are cut. Just use those little nubs to help you line that up straight right across the fold of the card, and then roll it through your machine. That really is all there is to it. It's going to cut that pop-up right into the card. The center little fold is going to be lined up because you use those little nubs. It makes it very easy. And then all you have to do is just get your finger behind the center of the hearts, and then as you fold the card, just train those pivots to come the other way. It really is that simple. They are so quick and easy. You will get from paper to pop-up in, I don't know, 15 seconds. This next step is completely optional because the beauty of the pivot cards is they really don't require a backing card at all, unless you've used something like a pattern paper where it's a little bit flimsy, and then you may want a backing card. So in my case, the cardstock's holding up great, but just to show you how you would do it, I would just use half a backing card. Just use a strip that you can weave behind the heart on the right side of the card. You can kind of see my adhesive there on the card, and then stick that down. What it will do is it'll stiffen up that card, and it will also make it so you can't see all the way through the card anymore. So when the card is closed, then you, in the kind of the left-hand side where you see the window, you only see to the backer. You don't actually see all the way through the card. And it just kind of helps stiffen it up, but it is really very optional. You really don't have to put it on at all, especially if you've used cardstock. You know, decorating the pivot cards is really a breeze because all of the decorator pieces just come on the die set. So here I've lined up all of my decorator dies onto various pieces of cardstock, pattern paper. In the case of the key, I pre-glittered a piece of cardstock. And then I'm just going to cut all those pieces. And now you'll see how nicely they layer together. The two big hearts are actually very close in size, so you can see that they just give a little tiny shadow when you layer those together. There's a small heart. Let's look at that one. Those are all easy to pop out because they just have all of that open area in the center to just use your fingers. In the case of the key, you might need a little pokey tool to get into some of the little small ejection holes to get that pulled out of the die. But I really like the key too. I don't know if you'll be able to see it on the glitter one, but there's actually some little score lines in it that give it some highlights. And then the last little piece I'll show you here is this decorator heart that has the pattern in it. And just die cutting it, you can see some of that embossed pattern come out. But if you really want to highlight the embossing, then just leave it in the die or put it back in the die. If it's new, it kind of tends to just pop right out. And then use whatever sandwich you would use for whatever machine you're using to emboss a die. So in my case, I'm using the Sizzix Big Shot. I've kind of doubled up my silicone on the bottom and used the impressions pad on the top. And then that'll really, really highlight that embossing. So you don't have to do it, but if you do that two-step process, then you really get a nice raised emboss. Another way that the dies can be used, the ones that have the little embossing feature on them, is to use them as a stencil. So in this case, I'm just sponging some ink down through that die and onto the front of the heart, and it'll bring out that embossed pattern that's on the heart already. Okay, just a couple of my favorite little tips. One thing is you can use a paper clip. A paper clip to temporarily hold your items onto your pivot cards to just check their location, make sure that you like them in both the closed and the open position. Another thing that's kind of cool about the pivot cards is both sides of the die I was able to put decorator pieces in them. And so in this case I was able to create two hearts that are extremely close in size. And you can still nest them together though, and then look at this cool little heart frame that you can get. It's so delicate. If you want to change the color of the entire pop-up heart, see what I've done with my red spotted one here, then just use the pop-up die itself as a decorator die. So I put a piece of red spotted paper under the pop-up die and then just trimmed out just the heart to glue it in place over my red heart. And then I added some of those other little decorator hearts over the top. Now don't think that just because these are wafer thin dies that you won't be able to cut through multiple layers. I actually have 3 layers, cardstock and 2 pattern papers layered up on that card, and I'm using the little keyhole to cut that little keyhole right through the heart and right through all of the layers. So when the card opens and closes, you'll be able to see right through the keyhole. Okay, and then funny story, I decided to back it with black cardstock in my finished card, but it still would have been cool if I would have just left it as a keyhole-shaped hole in my card. But here you can see my final decorations for the card, just layering some of those other decorator dies and attaching everything to the card. It was just such a quick and easy card, and that's the beauty of the pivot cards. The other wonderful thing about the pivot cards is that there are 3 designs and that they all work exactly the same. So now that you've seen me do the heart one, you'll know exactly how to do the other 2. There is the heart pivot card. You can see it here done in a different color scheme. Here is the butterfly pivot card with all those cool little decorator pieces that come in the set. And then here is the Katie label pivot card. So that'll be a great generic one for any theme. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss any future videos on the Pop-It-Ups collection. You can go to ecraftdesigns.com to find out when and where you can buy them, and you can find more pop-up ideas on my blog, KarenBurniston.com. Thanks for watching.